At a Senate hearing today, top Trump administration officials defended the government's handling of the development of a coronavirus vaccine. The president claims a vaccine could be ready by the end of the year or even as soon as October. Experts say that's unlikely. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
The director of the National Institutes of Health and the U.S. Surgeon General assured a Senate panel that politics will not play a role in the development of a coronavirus vaccine.
The rigor of the scientific evaluation of safety and efficacy will not be compromised.
There has been no politicization of the vaccine process.
Under the Trump administration's Operation Warp Speed, 6 vaccine candidates are in rigorous trials, with 3 of them in the 3rd phase.
So you're still confident that you'll see a vaccine sort of before the end of the year?
By the end of the year is the goal, yes.
A recent CBS News poll shows a majority of registered voters think a vaccine that soon would be rushed through.
There will be no shortcuts, and when a vaccine is either approved or authorized by the FDA, I and my family will be in line to get it.
This week, 9 drug manufacturers took the rare step of signing a pledge to ensure they would not seek regulatory approval before trials showed their vaccine is safe.
A trial by AstraZeneca has been paused after one participant suffered an adverse reaction possibly related to the vaccine. The NIH director told lawmakers that's the way the system should work.
This ought to be reassuring to everybody listening when we say we are going to focus first on safety and make no compromises. Here is Exhibit A.
Both experts committed to working to make sure cost would not be an obstacle once a vaccine is available. The Surgeon General also warned that this coming flu season would be the most important of our lifetime and urged Americans to also get a flu shot. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Dr. Wilbur Chen joins me now. He's an associate professor of medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and chief of the Adult Clinical Studies section within the Center for Vaccine Development and Global Health. He's also director of the UMB Travel Medicine Practice. Dr. Chen, thank you so much. We're really glad to have your expertise. Now that AstraZeneca's human trials have been put on pause, what happens next for this trial? Is it over, or could we see it pick up again this year?
I think it's the latter. It's really up to an independent data safety and monitoring board, which is an independent committee that works separate from the government, separate from the company that is manufacturing the vaccine. And they are supposed to be experts that are meeting together to evaluate the data. And based on their evaluation, they can see whether or not this adverse reaction is something that is definitively tied to the vaccination or perhaps can be explained otherwise. This oftentimes does happen in larger size trials, so phase 2 and phase 3 trials often can be halted temporarily so that we can look at safety information more carefully. And so this is what we're seeing right now. Again, I don't have the details exactly what happened, but it is foreseeable that this study could restart again based on this independent committee.
So the World Health Organization's chief scientist has said she does not believe a vaccine will be widely available to the general population before 2022. In your professional opinion, doctor, is an election day deadline, as we've heard from President Trump, at all realistic? And can you explain why or why not?
I think it's probably not realistic. I think that it's not a matter of political will that a vaccine gets approved. There are processes in place in which we have to demonstrate the ongoing safety of the vaccine, but also right now what's being demonstrated, or we are trying to demonstrate, is efficacy of the vaccine. And so that really means that we have to observe how this vaccine performs and if it's going to definitively protect people against getting a COVID-19 infection. And that's really something that we have to wait for these cases to evolve in our population that we're vaccinating. And so for us to have that information by November 1st seems to be something that is not realistic right now. However, if there is a huge increase in COVID in our population, we may get the answer faster, but it also means that we'll also be in a much worse pandemic situation.
Well, Doctor, can you talk to us about who typically participates in vaccine trials and how much control scientists have over the speed of the process itself?
Yeah, so the type of people that participate in our vaccine trials are all volunteer participants that provide informed consent. And so it's a process in which we take great pride in making sure that this is done in an ethically sound manner. And so these are volunteers from our populations of interest. And so I work in Baltimore, so they will be reflecting the people who live in the Baltimore, Washington area, who again are responding to the advertising and the messaging around this, that a number of phase 3 or phase 2 vaccine trials are being done in this region. They will willingly contact us either by phone, by text, other means, and then we will then describe to them what the study is about. So again, these are things that we need to have the trust of the participant and their consent as well. And so it's not something that we like to rush.
Well, are you concerned about the potential impact of political pressure to get a vaccine ready by the election?
Absolutely. I think that, again, we really don't want to foment any more distrust in the population. I think you've already mentioned that there are large portions of the population that even if a vaccine were available right now would probably not want to get the vaccine, that they would rather wait until they saw either more safety or what have you. But I think, again, trying to rush the process without having an appropriate way for us to demonstrate effectively the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines. Without that, I think that, again, we are not going to be getting the trust of the population, and therefore we're not going to have good uptake of the vaccine.
Right. So in a CBS News poll of nationwide voters, only 21% said they would get a vaccine as soon as it was available. I mean, what I hear you saying is that this vaccine will only be as effective as the uptake by the people who are really the ones that this vaccine is targeted at. It cannot be effective at ending the pandemic if people aren't getting it on a mass scale.
That's right. So even if we had a perfect scenario and we had a vaccine in November or December, and if that were a reality, that would be terrific based on safety and efficacy. But right now, because of the way that we're talking about these vaccines and how it is being somewhat politicized, is fomenting that distrust in the population. And so even if we had a perfect vaccine, if people don't take it, then it's not going to be effective. So really, it's about having a vaccine that's effective and also having the population willingly and eagerly receive that vaccine.
All right, Dr. Wilbur Chen. Dr. Chen, thank you so much for sharing your insight and expertise with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.